Hey guys, it's Miss Asbury, and for today's art project, we are going to be making something out of clay. Now, I know you're wondering, you're like, Miss Asbury, I don't have clay at home. What am I supposed to do? Well, the cool thing is this clay is a kind of salt dough, which means it's got a lot of salt in it, and I got this recipe from another elementary art teacher from Tennessee. So this clay is super easy to make, and it's usually with just stuff you can find around your house. It is made from flour, salt, and water. That's it. And once you mix all that together and knead it like a really good bread dough, you get this really awesome air dry clay. So with our clay today, we are going to be making some Easter projects. I made these. This one's not pretty. This one's pretty. Out of this clay, I just experimented a little bit to see what would work. And I'm gonna show you two different ways that you can make bunny rabbits out of clay. So, let me put these guys over here. They're just gonna take a nap. Now here's the thing about this clay. And this is something I'm still experimenting with, so I'm not perfect at it yet, but I'm learning. And what we're gonna make requires it to lie flat. So you can't really do projects with this clay that involve things that you want to stand up. This is more for stuff that are gonna lie flat, just like my bunnies here in this Easter egg. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take this clay and you're gonna wanna smooth it and flatten it into a pancake. This clay needs to be no thicker than your average delicious cookie, because if it gets any thicker, it's gonna take forever to dry. So you want it to be about a cookie pancake. All right, so the cool thing about us making flat clay projects are that we basically just get to draw in this pancake. So to make a bunny like this one I've got over here, all you need to do is go to your flat pancake, and I have a skewer here, but you could also use the end of a pencil or even a butter knife. It just depends on what you're allowed to use in your house. Make sure you ask permission before you use any kind of sharp object to draw into your clay. So I'm just using like a kebab skewer here. So I'm just gonna go into my clay and just very lightly I'm gonna draw like a door. Now another thing about this clay, you can't do super fine details in it. Like I couldn't make like a super fancy face out of this. It would have to be something super simple. So, and a knife might be better for this instead of a skewer, but this is what I've got. And after I figure, yeah, that's a good door size, I'm gonna add some bunny ears onto it. Just lightly. I'm not poking all the way through yet in case I mess up. All right, so now I'm gonna go with my skewer and I'm gonna go up, down, up, down, up, down, and I'm gonna cut it out. Just cut it out of my pancake. Just like this. Now for you guys, when you want to do this recipe on your own, I'm gonna put a link for Cassie Stevens, the art teacher, Cassie Stevens. I'm gonna put her recipe for this salt dough clay either on this video or down below. So I promise you will have access to this cool salt dough recipe. And I have had so much fun playing with it. I have loved just rolling it around in my hands and sculpting stuff just to see what I can make. And remember, a sculpture is different from a painting or a drawing or even a collage like we were doing with Matisse earlier. Because a sculpture is more like something that could be really touched, something that has a funky texture. Like this rabbit, after it dried, it felt like a rock, and it's something I can pick up. It's something that I could turn over. Usually you want to paint a sculpture on more than one side, so that way people can look at it from different angles and still say, oh yeah, that's a bunny. I might even go back and glue a little cotton ball onto him later. So a sculpture, the most important word for sculpture is 3D. A painting or a drawing is 2D, which means you can only see it from the front. But with a sculpture, we can see it from the front, the sides, the top, the bottom, and on the other side. So that's one main difference. So now that I've cut out my bunny, I'm gonna very carefully peel away the rest of this clay. Now right now his edges are a little rough. He looks a little funky. And that's because my skewer was not the best tool. But there's a way around this, so don't worry. I'm just gonna take my finger and dip it in this cup, which I have just put water in. It's just like coldish water. And I'm just gonna take my finger and smooth out the edges so that they're a little bit prettier, because right now they're a little ugly, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna rub it. Never while I'm working with this clay am I being super hard. I am being very gentle, almost like I'm actually petting a bunny. I'm being very smooth, very gentle. I'm only using one finger, and I am not pressing down super hard because this clay is super fragile, which means that we need to be careful and soft when we touch it. Very important. And then, as I'm smoothing this out, another tip I have is don't work directly on a table. When you're working with this, I just took a box, I think it was a popsicle box because my dad ate all the popsicles, and I just pulled it apart and used it for my working surface. So that way when I'm done, I can just take all my supplies off of it and pick it up if I need to transport it. So let's see. Almost got this ear smoothed out. Alright. I wouldn't make his ears too skinny and long either, or else they'll probably fall apart really easily, because another thing with this clay is as soon as it dries, you need to be super careful with it, okay? You can't be rough with them or else he'll probably fall apart. So let's see, mine's pretty stuck now. So I'm gonna let mine dry a bit. But while I'm waiting on it, I'm just gonna go ahead and put a little face into my bunny. And again, be super simple with what you draw. I'm just gonna put a boop eyeball, boop, and then a boop eyeball, boop. And then for the nose, I'm just gonna try my best to make a little triangle. And again, watch, am I being super rough? No, I am being super careful because this clay is kind of hard to get details with. So I might even dip my skewer in that water and smooth out my nose. There, that's pretty close to a triangle. Yeah. All right. And then last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the edge, the very side of my skewer, and I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. And on the other side, let me move this. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. And once again, I'm gonna remind you, don't be super hard on him, because if you go, he's gonna flatten and he's gonna look a little more funky than we want him to. So that's one way that I can make a bunny. Now he's still a little thick, so I would go make sure that it is no thicker than your finger. Mine's a little bit thicker than my thumb, so, ooh, that's a tongue twister. Thicker than my thumb, thicker than my thumb. Ugh. So I'm just gonna leave this guy alone. He's a little bit stuck to my cereal box. And as he dries, he might come up. If not, then I might have to take a little spatula and get him up, but that's okay. We'll worry about that later. All right, guys, so I've got another pancakey kind of blob over here on my working surface, and I noticed something, and here's something very important. I peeled this back up, and you can see where some of this backing has come off onto my cardboard. So what I would say, and I think I have some, ooh, yes. If it starts to stick to whatever you're working, then you're gonna wanna get some flour, some more flour, and just sprinkle it onto your surface, pat it out, so that way it won't stick onto what you're working on. So again, I've got my thin pancakey cookie. I'm full of tongue twisters today. And I'm gonna make an egg. The fun thing about this isn't so much in the clay stage, it's gonna be in the decorating stage, because once we make this out of clay and it dries, we can decorate it. I used a kind of watercolor paint for my egg, but you might end up using like stickers, you might have markers that you can use. It doesn't have to be paint if you don't have paint at home. There is always something that you can use for art, whether it's stickers or maybe even googly eyes or even leaves. You could go outside in nature and find some flowers that you can glue on. It is up to you. So that's pretty good. So I'm gonna make a big old egg. So I'm gonna take my skewer and I'm gonna start by making a smile face. Smiley, smiley. Just like that. And then as I get closer to the very tip, I might make a little dot where I want the tip of my egg to be. I know that's kind of hard to see. And then I'm just gonna go up, 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 up. And I'm gonna touch my dot. And then I'm gonna go down, 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 down until I touch my smile. And then I'm gonna stop. So it almost looks like a teardrop shape, but the very tippy top isn't pointy. It's not gonna, ow! It's not gonna stab me. It's just gonna be rounded out. So now I'm gonna go back with my skewer. I'm gonna go up, down, up, down, up, down, and I'm just gonna cut it out. Now don't be all impatient pants with this, okay? Just go slow and steady to win the race, or else you might accidentally rough him up a bit too much, and we don't want to do that. I don't know if you guys can hear my dog barking outside. She is a little stump with equally stubby legs, but she thinks she's the size of a German Shepherd, even though she's really the size of like a bread box or a toaster. But she thinks she can protect our home, and none of us really want to tell her any differently, so we just let her bark. Alright, so that's my rough egg. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take my water. I'm going to pick it up this time as I smooth it out. Yeah, I think that'll keep it from sticking to my cereal box. And I would even recommend taking some water and smoothing over the top too, so that way after it dries, you'll have a nice surface, the very top, you'll have a nice surface to draw or paint or whatever you're planning on doing with your egg. Right? Now, I might shape my egg into a little bit more of a pretty shape, but again, don't be rough with it. All I'm going to do is I'm going to tap it into place, and I might pinch it, but I'm never pinching hard. I don't want to hurt my egg baby. I'm just going to pinch it softly to get it into the shape I want it to be. So that looks pretty good. Now, I hope it's got enough flour on it to keep it from being too bad, but I think that's it for our egg. One thing you could do if you wanted is you could take a pencil and wiggle, 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 poke it all the way through, make a big hole. So that way after it's dry, you could even thread it with maybe a paper clip, some kind of wire or yarn to make it hangable so you could hang it on your wall. That would be really cool. All right, so this is an air dry clay, which means it could dry on its own. You could leave it outside in this beautiful sunshine we're having, and it'll dry pretty fast. We want it so that it won't be able to really move around anymore, and it shouldn't feel soft. It should feel pretty hard, like this guy. So if it doesn't sound like, then it's not right yet. You gotta leave them alone. So as soon as you're done with them, leave them alone. Don't pick them up to show them to anybody, or else they might flop and break and you'll be sad. So just leave them alone. If it's taking way too long to dry, you can put it in the oven for roughly 150 to 200 degrees. I'd say with 5 or 10 minute intervals. I did about 10 minutes each for these guys, and that worked out fine. So I'd say about 10 minutes and check on it if you want it to dry a little bit faster. That is something you can do. So that's it for part 1. Come back tomorrow and we'll talk about different ways that you can decorate these. I might be using paint, but I'll also search around my house for some other materials, all right? So, I hope you're having a really good week. I hope you're staying safe, you're washing your hands, you're healthy, and you're getting to spend some time with your family in this crazy world we're in. So, miss you, love you, see you soon. One more tip, guys. If you want your bunny to be able to stand up after he is fully dry, what I'm going to try to do, and this might not work, but I'm going to experiment like a artsy scientist. I'm going to experiment. And I put him on against this cup so he has something to lean on. And then I just kind of shook his booty a bit. I just shook really gently to make sure his bottom, his little tushy, was really flat against this cardboard. So hopefully when he dries, it will stay like that. And you guys might come up with better ideas how to stand him up. You might make him some little feet, or you might make him a little tail. It is completely up to you. You don't have to make your rabbit look like mine. In fact, if you make it any different, take a picture of it and let me see. I'd love to see what you come up with to make him look a little bit more different from my little Cookie bunny. I might name it Cookie. He looks like a cookie. Okay, that's it for me. Just wanted to add that little tidbit. Signing off. From Little Cookie Bunny.